仏説魔が般若波羅蜜心経漢字財宝作業人般若波羅蜜多辞書剣語雲海空道一切空薬者。
Hello, my name is Koe. I'm a Shingon priest from the United States living here in Tokushima. Tokushima is the home of the first 23 temples of the Shikoku Henro, an 88-temple pilgrimage connected to the sacred sites of Kobo Daishi Kukai, a saint from the 9th century. Today, I'd like to help you learn how to pray at each temple on the pilgrimage. When you walk the pilgrimage, you're sure to see people praying from little booklets like this or this. These little booklets are called shidai. They're basically prayer manuals. Inside they contain verses, mantras, and sutras that people pray when they walk or travel to each temple of the pilgrimage. To accompany this video, I've made an English shidai. It's available as a free PDF, which you can find in the description of this video for download. Please download it, print it out, and use it to follow along with this video. You may be wondering why Buddhists chant in the first place. When we travel the pilgrimage, we make offerings to the Buddhas, such as candlelight or beautiful fragrant incense, but the central offering that we make is the chanting liturgy itself. This is connected to a Japanese word called horaku. Horaku is comprised of two Chinese characters. The first is ho, which means dharma or Buddhist teachings, and raku, which means comfort or enjoyment. What we offer to the Buddhas and all beings when we chant this service is the comfort and peace that people can find by encountering the Buddhist teachings. So what exactly are we chanting? Let's go through the steps of making offerings at a Henro temple together here at Dainichi-ji, temple number 13. And then I'll explain a little bit about the prayers and demonstrate how to say them at the main hall of this temple.
Shiki sokuze kuku sokuze shiki ju sogyo shiki yakubu nyoze shari shize shohoku soku shofu metsu fuku fujo fuzo fugen zekoku ju mu shiki mu ju sogyo shiki mu gen ni bi zeshin ni mu shiki shoko mi soku ho mu gen kai nai shi mu i shiki kai mu mu myo yaku mu myo jin nai shi mu ro shi yaku mu ro shi jin mu ku ju metsu do mu chi yaku mu toku i mu sho tokko bodai satta e hanya hara mita ko shin mu ge ge ko mu ku pu on ni issai tendo mu soku kyo ne han san ze sho butsu e hanya hara mita ko toku wa noku tara samyaku sambo dai kochi hanya hara mita ze dai jin shu ze dai myo shu ze mu jo shu ze mu toro shu no jo issai ku Shinjitsu fukoko setsu hanya hara mita shu soku sesshu atsu gyate gyate hara so gyate boji so aka hanya shingyo.
So here we are in the Hondo, the main hall of Temple 13, Dainichi-ji. Usually pilgrims will chant outside of the main hall on or near the steps of the temple. But the chief priest has given us permission to film inside of here, so I would like to add a little bit of explanation about each part of the liturgy before we practice chanting together. The first step of each liturgy is Gasshō Raihai. Gasshō is this gesture, palms together in front of the heart, and Raihai means prostration or bow. As I said, usually pilgrims will chant the liturgy standing outside, so we can perform a simple bow with the hands in front of our heart like this. We will bow 3 times before we begin chanting. Each time we bow, we say a mantra which goes like this. On SARABA TATAGYATA, HANNA MANNANŌ KYAROMI. So let's perform this action together. On SARABA TATAGYATA, HANNA MANNANŌ KYAROMI. On SARABA TATAGYATA, HANNA MANNANŌ KYAROMI. On SARABA TATAGYATA, HANNA MANNANŌ KYAROMI. After we finish our 3 prostrations, we will chant the Sange-mon, which is the verse of repentance. This verse says that we acknowledge that we have committed unwholesome or evil actions in the past, in this life, and in previous lives, and that we will attempt to do better going forward with the Buddha's help. Let's chant this verse together.
呵責正造小悪業海遊無視頓人知重心語意思少々一切が今回三芸
Now that we've repented of our past evil actions, we chant the verse of refuge. In this verse, we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, but it also refers to all of the enlightened beings that help us on the path to enlightenment. The Dharma is the teachings of these enlightened beings. The Sangha is the community of believers, so all of the pilgrims that you meet, all of the priests and workers at the temples that you meet, and indeed all believers in Buddhism are members of this Sangha. So we take refuge, we ask for support from these three gems, they're called in Buddhism, or three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the way, this is a feature of Buddhism that is shared in every Buddhist country and culture, even though there are many different kinds of Buddhism and many different schools of Buddhism. So let's chant this verse of refuge together.
弟子無垢人未来際帰依仏帰依法帰依僧弟子無垢人未来際帰依仏帰依法帰依僧弟子無垢人未来際帰依仏帰依法帰依僧
Next, we chant a verse which is completing our refuge in the triple gems.
弟子無垢人未来際帰依仏教帰依法教帰依僧教弟子無垢人未来際帰依仏教帰依法教帰依僧教弟子無垢人未来際帰依仏教帰依法教帰依僧教
Next, after we've taken refuge, we chant the Juzenkai. These are the 10 virtuous precepts, which are guides to help us model our behavior more closely on the Buddhas. Especially as we walk, we should keep in mind that this is a spiritual act and that we have a responsibility to behave well and to improve ourselves through the pilgrimage. These are a wonderful guide and a guide that is adaptable to fit every individual person. So I encourage you to reflect on these deeply as you travel the pilgrimage. Let's chant them together.
弟子無垢人未来際不殺生不中道不邪淫不妄語不記語不惑不良舌不剣断不信に不邪見弟子無垢人未来際不殺生不中道不邪淫不妄語不記語不惑不良舌不剣斷不信に不邪見弟子無垢人未来際不殺生不中道不邪淫不妄語不記語不惑不良舌不剣斷不信に不邪見
Next, we'll chant two mantras. The first is the Hotsubo Daishin mantra. This is a mantra which expresses our intent to share the benefits of our practice with all beings throughout the universe. The second is the Sammaya mantra, which expresses that we will take concrete steps to do this. We'll chant them 3 times each.
オンボジシッタボダハダヤミオンボジシッタボダハダヤミオンボジシッタボダハダヤミオンサンマヤサトバンオンサンマヤサトバンオンサンマヤサトバン
Before we chant a sutra, we chant the verse on opening a sutra, the Kaikyo-ge. This verse reflects on the rareness of encountering the Buddhist teachings and helps us to express our gratitude for being able to encounter in our human body these teachings and to understand them.
無常人人未妙法百千万語南宋具が根源門読十字願下如来真実義
Now that we've chanted the Kaikyo-ge, we will chant the Heart Sutra. This is by far the most popular sutra in all of Japanese Buddhism, and indeed all of East Asian and Mahayana Buddhism, partly because of its short length. But don't be fooled by its length. it is extremely profound and far more profound than I have the time or qualifications to explain in this video. So I encourage you to research it on your own by asking a qualified Buddhist teacher or by reading the many books that have been written about it. But for now, let's chant it together. Remember that this is an act of offering to the Buddhas. So please chant with a spirit of generosity as we chant these words together.
仏説魔が般若波羅蜜多心経漢字財宝作業人般若波羅蜜多辞書剣語雲海空洞一切空薬者利子式不意空空不意式式即税空空即税式重創業式薬部尿税者利子税商法空祖不商不滅不空不上不増不減税国住無式無重創業式無限に微絶心に無式証拠未速法無限界内し無意識界無無明薬無無明人内し無老死薬無老死人無空樹滅道無知薬無得意無所特攻膨大サッタエ般若波羅蜜多故心無下下無下下故無空不音に一切天道無即教根半三世小仏へ般若波羅蜜多高徳阿のたら三脈三宝大高知般若波羅蜜多税大人種税大名種税無上種税無灯籠種農場一切空真実不公公説般若波羅蜜多種即摂取圧ギャテギャテハラギャテハラソギャテボジソアカ般若心経
After having chanted the Heart Sutra, we'll chant the mantra of the Gohonzon. The Gohonzon here at Dainichi-ji is Juichimen Kannon, 11-faced Kannon. There are a variety of different Buddhas that are celebrated in the main halls of the temples of the pilgrimage. This is because Buddhas are said to take an infinite number of forms in order to respond to the needs of every living being in the universe, including you and I. 11-faced Kannon, for example, is one manifestation of the Bodhisattva of compassion, Kannon, or in Sanskrit, Avalokiteshvara, who has 11 faces which symbolize the different stages on the path to enlightenment. Mantras are Sanskrit phrases which are said to encapsulate the being of a Buddha themselves. So as I chant the mantra of Juichimen Kannon, please keep in mind the image of this Buddha, as the Buddha and their mantra are completely one.
Ummaka kyaroni kyasoaka, 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 ummaka kyaroni kyasoaka.
Next, we'll chant the Komyo Shingon. This is the mantra of light. This light is the wisdom of the Buddhas, which helps illuminate the darkness of our ignorance and bring us closer to enlightenment and happiness. We'll chant this 5 times to represent the 5 TATAGYATAs, the 5 Nyorai, which are the central deities of the Shingon cosmos.
Om abo kya bero shano magabo dara mani hando majimbara harabari daya Om abo kya bero shano magabo dara mani hando majimbara harabari daya Om abo kya bero shano magabo dara mani hando majimbara harabari daya Om abo kya bero shano magabo dara mani hando majimbara harabari daya Om abo kya bero shano magabo dara mani hando majimbara harabari daya.
Next, we'll chant the name of Kobo Daishi, Kukai. Kukai was a 9th century monk who brought Mikyo, esoteric Buddhism from China to Japan and had a profound impact on Japanese Buddhist practice in his lifetime and, of course, for the 1,000 years after. In fact, it's Kobo Daishi who is one of the central focuses of this pilgrimage. All of the temples of the pilgrimage are connected to Kobo Daishi in some way. For example, it's said that the original main image here at Dainichi-ji was carved by Kobo Daishi himself during his years of practice. I'll talk more in detail about Kobo Daishi later. So for now, let's chant his name, his gohogo, together.
Namu Daishi Henjo Kongo, 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 Namu Daishi Henjo Kongo.
At the end of each liturgy, we chant the Ekomon, which is the verse dedicating merit. Every time we perform a virtuous action or undertake a Buddhist practice like the pilgrimage or chanting a liturgy or giving alms or anything like that, we accrue something called kudoku, merit, which is momentum toward enlightenment. But in Mahayana Buddhism, the school of Buddhism of which Shingon Buddhism is a part, we don't keep this momentum toward enlightenment for ourselves. Rather, we share the merits of our practice with all beings throughout the universe, so that all beings together may attain awakening. Let's chant this verse together.
Kannishi kudoku fugyu issai gatoyo shujo kaigu jōbutsu do.
After having chanted the verses, sutras, and mantras of the liturgy, we take a few moments just to pause and reflect quietly on our reasons for traveling the pilgrimage. Throughout history, people have walked or traveled the pilgrimage for a huge variety of reasons, whether physical healing, spiritual awakening, or troubles in their everyday life. Any reason is okay as long as you're here. So please take a moment to pause and offer your intentions to the Buddhas. When people pray, they often rub their nenju, their prayer beads, together like this. So you can just rub it together 2 or 3 times as you reflect upon your reasons for traveling the pilgrimage. Finally, just like at the beginning, we'll put our hands in Gasshō, bow 3 times, and say the mantra once for each time. On, SARABA, TATAGYATA, HANNA, MANNANŌ, KYAROMI.
On, SARABA, TATAGYATA, HANNA, MANNANŌ, KYAROMI. On, SARABA, TATAGYATA, HANNA, MANNANŌ, KYAROMI. On, SARABA, TATAGYATA, HANNA, MANNANŌ, KYAROMI. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Often when I've walked the pilgrimage with my teachers, the last thing that they do after a liturgy is say a phrase, Arigatou gozaimashita. Everybody knows this phrase. This is usually translated as thank you. But actually its meaning is quite profound and deeply connected to Buddhism, so I'd like to explain it a little bit. It literally means it's difficult for something to have existed. This is an expression of the rarity of encountering Buddhist teachings, of any moment coming into existence. It's an expression of deep gratitude for reality, for the chance to practice, and for the chance to, in this situation, be here on the pilgrimage and come face to face with the Buddhas alongside Kobo Daishi.
Namu Daishi Henjo Kongo, 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 Namu Daishi Henjo Kongo.
As I mentioned in the Hondo, the Shikoku pilgrimage centers on sacred sites connected to a saint called Kobo Daishi Kukai. Kobo Daishi was born and raised in Shikoku, but eventually dropped out of a high-level university in the Heian capital in order to become a wandering mendicant, meditating in the wild mountains and valleys of Shikoku and studying in temple libraries. This would have been a radical act of renunciation during his time, but Kukai had a passion for the truth and sought to encounter it through Buddhist practice. I think one reason that Kukai's spirit endures and is still venerated on this pilgrimage is because he managed to be somehow something for everyone. To aristocrats, he was a skilled poet and calligrapher. To Buddhist scholars, he was a master of sutras. To Buddhist practitioners, he was a skilled ascetic. And to normal people, he was a healer and a builder. There's an expression you'll often encounter on the Shikoku pilgrimage. It's written on many white shirts like this, or on pilgrimage bags, and even on the staffs that people carry. It's this expression, dōgyō ni nin. This expression is comprised of 4 characters that mean same practice, 2 people. Whenever we travel this pilgrimage, whether we do so by foot, by car, or by bicycle, Kobo Daishi walks with us. You may notice as you walk that people present you with gifts of food, drink, or even money sometimes. This is a custom called osettai, which means an expression of hospitality for a guest. Specifically in Shikoku, osettai is a gift from local people to pilgrims, and it's animated by the idea that Kobo Daishi walks with pilgrims. When local people present you gifts, they believe that they are presenting gifts directly to Kobo Daishi. I encourage you, as you undertake this spiritual journey in Shikoku, or on other pilgrimages, or other temples, or even in your own daily practice, to keep this spirit in mind. Thank you for watching. Safe travels.